I do believe that I've got a whole doctor working in a condition that at least it's small. Still haven't figured out the OBS. Can't figure out how to get that to work properly. But I cannot start my day without watching some of this.
Wish to provide public testimony this morning, but who could not be here in person. We're going
Oh yeah, this is the last day for this witch. She goes out with a bang, doesn't she? She goes out with doing a despicable act of raising fares at the worst possible time. While the agency's in collapse, people are suffering, and these idiots are raising fares. It's about what you'd expect from this is your democracy in action here. If you still believe you live in a democracy, you are a dumb fucking fool.
going to begin the public forum. Generally, we're going to start with those that are here in person, but I'm going to vary a little bit today and have one of the virtual participants go first. But let me go through what the procedure is for those that are here in person. As I call a person forward, I will call two at a time. To help things move along with the testimony as quickly as possible, we have 19 individuals signed up for in-person and 11 individuals signed up for virtual. We ask those testifying to please keep your comments and concerns and feedback about just TriMet and our service. And we also ask that comments be limited to no more than 3 minutes. If we're unable to do so, you may provide your comments in writing by emailing them to...
Stop the presses for a minute. I want to show you something here. Let me show you. Where is he? This tweet here. Listen, can you see it? Listen to this. On my way back from the TRIMET board meeting, it's a dark day for democracy when special interests pay people buying t-shirts, making signs, paying stipends, tokenizing youth is for political gain is gross. So he's saying this is like a Russiagate type. This is a democratic. This is the kind of thing these shit-lib Democrats do. They always try to say that somebody is setting this up. This is like a Russiagate. Like Russia's creating, by paying people, they're making everybody go crazy at the board meeting. So I don't know what's wrong with this guy to make a tweet like that, or whether it's planned or some kind of psyop. But this is a gross thing to say. I'm very surprised at you, Ozzy. You'd make a statement like this because you have no evidence of that, do you? You're just threw this out there, and you don't have any evidence to back it up. So you are now the number one villain of the TriMet elite. You set yourself up to be the number one villain. I hope you're happy, Ozzy.
Board testimony at trimet.org. I will call the in-person presenters by number and ask you to identify yourself by name. And so you will come to the table that's right up here in front. To keep you to your allotted time, there will be 3 lights on the table in front of you. The green light means it's time to begin. The yellow light means you have 30 seconds left and you should begin wrapping up your testimony. And the red light indicates your time is up and it's now time for the next person to provide testimony. So to begin today, I'm going to first call on our first virtual participant, which is Com Vaughn. Com, are you there?
Yes.
So she gave preferential treatment to this representative because she's a representative. So even you see even the elites cooperating at this level.
Thank you so much, President Simmons and members of the committee. I'm just going to, yes, members of the TRIMET board. My name is Con Pham, and I'm the state representative for House District 46 in outer Southeast Portland, which includes Montevilla, Lentz, Foster Powell, Brentwood, Darlington, and many other neighborhoods. And the number 72 is my favorite bus line. So I want to first of all apologize that I can't be there in person today to testify. And so I really truly appreciate the opportunity to speak remotely from Salem today. Constituents in my district have consistently been asking me to use my time in office to really advocate to improve public transportation so it is safer, easier, cheaper, faster, and more convenient to get around the community without a car. Because we know that not everyone can afford to or is able to or even wants to drive a car. In my district, from students at PCC Southeast to recent immigrants, to senior citizens, to community members with disabilities, and teenagers relying on buses to get to classes, I'm here today to advocate on behalf of so many different community members who see TriMet as their lifeline for education, employment, access to healthcare, shopping, and economic opportunity. I greatly appreciate the work of Opal's Bus Riders Unite to call attention to this proposal and the impacts it will have on my constituents, especially the most vulnerable in my community in desperate need of a reliable mobility lifeline. It's with their interests in mind that I testify in opposition to the proposed fare hike before you this morning. I am very sympathetic to the difficult decisions that you as board members face to manage the constraints of balancing the budget of an American transit system in 2023. You know, I've seen every transit agency in the U.S. has lost revenue and passengers since 2019, and finding funding for these systemic challenges is an existential question for both TriMet and also for many transit systems across the country. And this is happening at exactly the same time in which transit is increasingly understood as a solution to many of our overlapping problems related to affordability, climate, cleaner air, safer streets, and economic opportunity. Unfortunately, this fare increase appears to be a temporary budget Band-Aid that ultimately hides the larger systemic problems that TriMet must begin to tackle to be the transit agency of the 21st century that we need. TriMet needs to move away from its reliance on farebox revenue to close funding gaps and move towards thinking about transportation like an essential service and funding it accordingly. And this is going to require more than a fare hike. This is going to require years of leadership to shape a broader agenda and vision for our transportation system. As a legislator in the statewide Joint Committee on Transportation, I'm testifying to the TriMet board to ask you to be ambitious in the months and years ahead. TriMet must continue its work towards solving the safety, security, and cleanliness problems of their service so that everyone in Portland, in the Portland metro region, considers TriMet an irresistibly attractive option for more trips across the region. As a legislator, I'm constantly
Well, they're not going to listen to you, so shut up.
asked to vote on tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in investments.
Why don't you, as a state legislature, now introduce a bill disbanding the TriMet Board of Directors and created a elected board, elected by actual people that live in the Portland metro region. That's what you could do, Cam Fan.
An additional road capacity statewide. With a $6.7 billion ODOT budget for the next biennium, the money does exist to make substantial investments in public transit. And as the TriMet board, you have the opportunity to set the tone for a more assertive approach, convening a more aggressive approach, convening stakeholders to plan a generational investment in public transportation. All signs point to the 2025 legislative session as the year for the state government to consider substantial investments in transportation. And beyond today's vote, I'm eager to work with TriMet's board and community partners to draw up a plan for a substantial investment in public transit in our future. In the meantime, this fare hike simply kicks the can down the road, placing the burden on our most vulnerable residents to keep this agency afloat instead of beginning the hard work of the long-term conversation about our region's shared future transit system. I encourage you to vote against this fare hike and look forward to working with all of you on prioritizing investments in transit service and infrastructure in the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, you know they didn't do what you said, so introduce a bill disbanding this board. That's what you need to do. You're in a position to do it. Do it.
Thank you. Thank you. I would now like to begin the in-person testimony, and I'm going to call those two speakers that have numbers 1 and 2 to the table up front. Remind you again that each of you have 3 minutes, and that the yellow light indicates you have 30 seconds left, and the red light indicates that your time is up. And I'd like to ask you each to introduce yourself by name.
She's smiling.
Oh, yeah, and press the button so it's green in the front.
My name is Courtney Ellen Cosgrove. As an Oregonian who is a national business owner and former elected official within the Los Angeles County, I've had experience with public transportation and infrastructure and policymaking. Oregon's proposed fare increase across the board is alarming, as it would make public transit within Oregon more expensive than Los Angeles and New York, two of the nation's largest cities with arguably more efficient and widespread systems. We all know.
Did you hear that? The TriMet is going to be more expensive than Los Angeles and New York.
Public transit runs on infrastructure. According to the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act of 2021 from the Biden administration, Oregon will receive $4.5 billion over the next 5 years, with a dedicated $2 million going towards public transit. By raising the TriMet public fare, TriMet is publicly acknowledging that you have failed the community, and more importantly, you acknowledge that your mishandlings and COVID aside, your poor planning is now the financial burden on low-income communities within the state. TriMet's number one priority should be implementing more effective policies along with programs that alleviate the financial burden on Oregon citizens with a goal of promoting greater economic mobility and social infrastructure. The findings of your own report prove that residents and employees alike disagree with this increase. So I ask of this board, should there be any other reports and data sources outside of those publicly shared, wherein a proposed increase is of value to the state, tourism, city planning reports that aren't public, that the public are not aware of, it is your ethical responsibility to this body to share those findings immediately. And I would emphasize that I've asked this question on the record. I yield my time.
Thank you. Thank you, Courtney. Michael?
Good morning, board president and board members. My name is Michael Brosinos. Opal and the Bus Riders Union ask that you delay the proposed fare increases to make a comprehensive decision about how fare increases affects the social determinants of health for residents in the Portland metro area. We ask that TriMet make efforts to more holistically evaluate the health impacts their decisions have on customers. Access to public transportation has the ability to reduce health disparities and promote health equity by increasing access to healthier food, medical care, vital services, and employment for people who do not have equal access to fundamental daily needs. As a caretaker of seniors, I see how public transportation is critical for them to receive care. Healthcare data corroborates my experience and confirms to me how health and transportation are related. A meta-study by West Los Angeles Veteran Center and Humana found that transportation access and health outcomes are associated. In reviewing other literature, researchers found that interventions that removed barriers to non-emergency transportation are associated with fewer missed appointments. Recent literature from New Mexico suggests that inequities in public transportation access make it more difficult for people to receive primary care health services. Public transportation is also how many people I care for stay connected. U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy said that social isolation is a public health crisis. A 2020 report from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine points out that 1/4 of adults aged 65 and older are considered to be socially isolated. Social isolation significantly increases a person's risk of premature death that rivals that of smoking, obesity, or physical inactivity. Raising fares would make it difficult for the most vulnerable to stay connected and would likely result in avoidable deaths. In the same way that physical activity and transit are related, there is an unexplored connection between social connection and transportation that needs to be quantified so that decision makers such as yourselves can make better decisions for the good of society. Many other cities around the world take holistic approaches to understanding transportation as a public health issue and a social good. Therefore, OPAL urges TriMet to fully consider public health in this decision today and in future decisions. Without a fuller understanding of the impacts fare increases will have on residents, we urge you to delay the decision by voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Those individuals here with numbers 3 and 4, please come to the table and state your name.
Where's the evidence?
Hello? Hello? Okay. Good morning, Board President, Dr. Lisa Simmons, and members of the Board of Directors. My name is Jonathan Cruz. OPAL and Bus Riders Union, or Bus Riders Unite, asks that you delay proposed fare increases to make comprehensive decisions about how fare increases affect the social determinants of health for residents in the Portland metro area. We ask that TriMet make efforts to more comprehensively consider the health impacts their decisions have on customers. The fare increase by Ordinance 374 is likely to affect residents beyond what they pay as they board and has other costs to health and quality of life. Raising fares also impacts our ability as advocates in transportation to promote public transit and to meet commitments we've made on environmental justice and racial equity. Published research suggests that fare increases impact crash injuries, air pollution, and chronic diseases such as cancer and heart disease. In 2014, a health impact assessment in Boston, Massachusetts, found that an increase in fares by the Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority would result in a projected decrease in ridership of 30,000 to 49,000 people. Additionally, a fare increase would result in lost time as more residents sit in traffic, worse air quality, additional crashes, and ultimately avoidable deaths. Fare increases by the MBTA were not only projected to reduce ridership and reduce health outcomes, but were also projected to cost residents more in health interventions than the budget shortfall at the time. Lastly, the study estimated that an increase of 30% in fares would result in 10 avoidable deaths per year, and a fare increase of 43% would result in 15 avoidable deaths per year. The outcomes as a result of TriMet's fare increases are likely to be similar to Boston, but with lesser impacts since the proposals to increase fares are at 12%. The MBTA ultimately increased fares at a lesser amount as a result of the health impact assessment. And in public health, we call these deaths avoidable, but for decision makers who make decisions against public health advice, avoidable deaths are acceptable deaths. Therefore, we urge TriMet to conduct a health impact assessment to quantify the qualitative data that we've been sharing with you for years. We are committed to working with TriMet and other public partners to expanding transit access and institutional knowledge about TriMet's role in protecting public health. As partners in building support for public transportation, we must continually search for ways to advance our mission of protecting and promoting health by upholding environmental justice principles. A fare increase will likely impact social determinants of health by decreasing economic stability, making the built environment less safe, and degrading social and community contexts. We ask that TriMet fully consider the health impacts of this decision and proceed with an approach that is protective of health. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Good morning, board members.
Oh, Ozzy. Ozzy, I don't know. What do you think you're doing, Ozzy? I thought you were politically astute, and here you are making an idiot out of yourself. I can't believe you did this, Ozzy. Why would you do this?
Okay. Good morning, board members. My name is C. Nina Kung. I'm here today to speak to urge you to vote no on the fare increases that's proposed. I have given you a copy of the latest 2023 report on COVID and financial hardships in Oregon. Its online version is called Alice in the Cross Currents. Alice stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. This report is put out by the State Research Advisory Committee, as well as many partners, including United Way of the Pacific Northwest, Idaho Nonprofit Center, Go West Foundation, the Ford Family Foundation, Avista, Oregon Community Foundation, WSECU, Wafed Bank, and Kelly Jurgens Wealth Management, LLC. Based on the federal standards of poverty for a family of 4, it says that the annual total required to survive, this is the bare minimum budget to survive, is $26,500. Based on their research of Alice household survival budget, that cost is $73,380. The difference is $46,880. Also, there has been a cost of living increase based on the data from 2019 to 2021 of 15%, not just 3% based on the federal poverty standards. This means that in Oregon, based on the federal poverty standards, only 12% of Oregonians are in poverty. However, based on Alice research, another 32% of Oregonians earn above the federal poverty standards, but are not able to survive with the bare minimum budget that they configured, which accounts for housing, utilities, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, technology, miscellaneous, and taxes before tax credits. Now, it has a breakdown by county, and for Multnomah County, that percentage, Alice population, is 46%. For Clackamas County, that percentage is 48%. For Washington County, that percentage is 41%.
See, Nina,
Okay.
thank you so much for your comments. Your time is out. Can you please quickly wrap up?
Yes, thank you. So with housing being fixed, childcare costs being fixed, food costs being pretty much fixed, technology costs being fixed, and taxes being fixed, the two items that are flexible for squeezing are food and cost for transportation. For families that rely on public transit, this substantially save the cost for that and narrow that down to an more affordable living. So, then that saving can go into food and healthcare and childcare and housing and utilities, as well as technology and also emergency care.
Yeah.
So these are the things I ask you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, See, Nina.
For a copy of the online report,
We have it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have it. We have it. We don't give a shit. We're going to do what we're told by our fucking leader, Sam DeMann, who happens to be black. So if he's black, he must be a good guy, right? Wrong.
you.
find it online.
Yes.
It's a national movement, and 20
Good for her for not stopping when they told her to stop.
Thank
more than
you.
20 states in the country has already done this research.
Those that hold numbers 5 and 6, please come to the table and state your name. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mallory, and I'm actually speaking on behalf of Alma, who is a mother and a member of the Latina community. She has to take her child to school today, so I'm reading on behalf of her. Sorry, let's see. I'm here to urge you against the fare increase and to look for new avenues for funding instead. It is contradictory that the Metro is giving environmental justice training at the same time as this increase is being proposed, because we know that the increase will cause a decrease in use of public transportation and an increase in the use of cars, which will lead to an increase in pollution and pollution-related illnesses. Working people like me will be the most affected, since the increase of food and housing costs are going up, and this public transport increase will be a hard blow to working class pockets. I've lived in Washington County for 20 years, and I know that families like me will be the most affected. Many of us do not have a driver's license, and we have a very low salary. Public transportation is our way of getting around to medical appointments, jobs, school, and recreational activities. The Latino community makes up a large portion of those who take public transportation and will be hit the hardest. Students will also be affected with the rate increase, as they are already limited to pay for their materials like books and food in order to get to school. Older people will also be highly impacted, as they are not able to drive and often do not have a connection to their community. With isolation being caused, this will be detrimental to the elder community. We know that there are other options, but we know also that you have not been able to show an effort to look into these options, and that you just want to take the easy way out. We urge you to postpone this decision, look for new revenues, and say no to a fare increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mallory.
We yield our time.
Good morning. You have probably gone many of these, but I'll continue the flow. My name is Jorge Sanchez Bautista, and I'm a student leader at McDaniel High School in Northeast Portland. I'm Mexican-American, and part of the LGBT community, and hopefully a first-gen college student in the future. I want to start by saying that I have taken TRIMET my whole life. The bus stop across from my home has been the bus stop that me and my mom have used since I was in kindergarten. I'm a sophomore now, becoming a junior this next school year. We used it and continue to use it to go out, go to grocery stores, doctor's appointments, get our medicine, see people, and so much more. I took TRIMET to get to my elementary school, my middle school, and now high school. And just like me, hundreds of thousands depend on public transportation, just like in every major city in the world. It makes a big difference in your life when you don't have a car, a bike, or money for a car service like Uber, because we all know it's expensive, so we rely on public transportation. Your team conducted the Title VI equity analysis that was later presented to you all on March 29th. It found, and I quote, "The proposed fare increase would result in both a disparate impact on minority riders and a disproportionate burden on low-income riders." 30 cents may seem low to you all, but for everyone else in the city, it's not. In our current state as a city, state, and country, we are struggling with wars, climate change, guns, abortion, homelessness, the debt ceiling, wages, education, racial justice, and so much more. This is not something that should be added to the hundreds of problems that we as a society are facing and worrying about. People shouldn't skip school like me, cut work, or miss something to be here and tell you that you should choose people over money. And with that, you have my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge.
Very good, very good.
The next individuals with number 7.
They're very great testimonies. Unfortunately, we know they don't give a fucking shit. I've been telling you this for years. They don't give. Okay, let me
7
see.
and 8, please come forward and state your names.
What?
Good morning.
Hi, my name is Lynn Handlin. I work in outer southeast Portland. I ride TRIMET The Green Line is my friend. Public transportation is important for those who ride it and for those who don't. As you are all aware, I know, our planet is heating up faster than even expected. And there's very little time left to do something about this crisis. But you all can do something. I know the last time I was here, you talked about the great new electric buses, which I'm very excited about. So happy you're going that way. But those electric buses are not going to do a lot of good if people aren't on them. And if you raise fares, your own studies show that you will decrease ridership. And right now, we need to increase ridership, not decrease. We can't afford to consider short-term Band-Aids of increased fares that will discourage ridership at the expense of increases in emissions that fuel the fires of the climate crisis. Your own studies are showing that the fare increases are going to decrease ridership. It's just not right. And this proposal is to increase fares is unjust. As your own studies show, you know that it's going to impact the low-income communities the worst. And you mentioned some mitigations for this, but they are woefully inadequate and don't really address the problems. Really, we should be going fareless, which is what other cities are doing, and successfully. TriMet, y'all, you have money problems. I get it. And, money problems have to be solved. You have other funding sources. Confam mentioned earlier, going to ODOT. ODOT, in their recent planning, they have all sorts of pictures with, buses prominent and cars are small. So ask them to put their money where their mouth is and fund TriMet and other public transportation.
Stop this for a minute. Okay. Ozzy, what are we going to do about you? I mean, you kind of have to like the guy. I mean, I have to admit, I kind of like him. But, okay. This is what he's referring to. When he says that they paid all these people to show up, this is what he's talking about. Okay, let me make it bigger. Seeking Our Liberation, Opal is excited to launch the Seeking Our Liberation campaign. 12 weeks diving into leadership development. SLM will take part in 12 workshops aimed at building communications. The program will directly benefit culture. As part of the program, you'll receive you must attend a minimum of 10 to 12 workshops. I don't see this as connected, but I see what he's trying to do here. Okay. Okay, so at least he didn't make it up totally. He did have some basis in making the accusation. But this doesn't apply, but nice try, Ozzy, on that one.
More than widening freeways. The other option is increasing the TriMet tax. I have a tax and payroll business, and my clients grumble about the TriMet tax, but they grumble about the forms. If there's an increase in the rate, most of them wouldn't even notice, to be honest. I hope they're not listening to me, but there you go. Now is not the time to be increasing fares, decreasing ridership, and sorry, this is my little fuzzy here. You need to do the right thing. It's burning up the planet. It's unjust. Now is not the time to increase fares. So please don't do that, and listen to all the people that have gone before me that have spoken so well. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Deborah?
Good morning, I'm Deborah.
Oh, press the button.
Good morning, I'm Deborah Olson. I live in Gresham, right off Burnside, where there's no Burnside bus that runs up there. Last month, I wrote a little letter to you, the board, that I had to hike almost a mile from the Fred Meyer's grocery store back to the Cleveland Max. I think you should have paid me for that instead of me having to pay fare. I also had to go back later that day. There was one bus that has a 4-hour lunch break. The last run is about 11 and doesn't pick up till 3. And that was between the two stores, Winco and Fred Meyer's. And I finally found the other bus way further up past Fred Meyer's and across the big main Burnside. Not good bus service at all. The Max is down quite a bit for all kinds of issues. Police activities, cars on the tracks, etc. 2, I want to point out, a friend of mine took her first ride and only ride on the FX bus last month. She didn't know how to get on the bus with the scooter, and the driver said, "Come on and just drive it." Well, as she boarded that bus, she fell off the ramp. This is an elderly lady in her 70s, and the scooter toppled over too. So there's some kind of a safety issue. This is the number 2 bus line right off of Civic and Division. And as a senior citizen who got a decent Social Security increase last year, the landlord, and I live in low-income tax credit housing, took that rent increase away and another 2.5% or 2.5% times it. Small potatoes for some, but big potatoes or no potatoes for us. And this year, the biggest Social Security that I got, GSL Property Management, raised my rent 168%. So seniors are struggling too. And let alone food, prescriptions. I almost fell over when one of my neighbors is paying over $300 for a prescription. So I'm against the fare increase. We need better bus service. And I hope that somebody gets back to this woman and tells her why she fell off. She doesn't know. She doesn't want to sue TriMet. She doesn't know what she did wrong. To the best of my knowledge, she's not hurt, she's not complaining, but she fell off the ramp getting on the Max. I'm done. That's all I'm going to rant about today. No fare increase and more bus service. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
That woman is excellent. You know that? She comes all the time, and she's excellent. Over and out for this episode.